these football betting tips to see if they were legit and work out how the independently verified results record was so insanely profitable, because the tipster's profile page boasts a 42% strike rate and 11.3% return on investment, creating a total of £2,226 profit to level £25 stakes over the space of 12 months. It just seems too good to be true. Now, I came across the page because the people behind it emailed me asking me to promote them here on this YouTube channel. They were very polite and they offered to pay, but I never responded because there's a problem here. I'd never promote something that I wouldn't use myself, and football betting tips is on that list, and with good reason. I'll explain why in a second, but first I wanted to know how they were achieving huge margins on an independently verified service. I was intrigued, and there was only one way to find out: by paying for the tips and signing up myself. Now, I've got mixed feelings about what I found here, so I'll explain what's going on and leave you guys to make your own judgment. So I signed up for these football betting tips on the 1st of August, anticipating that I would record the results over the space of 30 days and then analyse what had been going on. Although that changed really quite quickly once I seen the inside of the tipster betting dash. It only took me about 10 minutes to realise what was going on here and what they were doing to produce these results, as somebody who's had lots of experience in the gambling industry in the past. So to the untrained eye, I'll explain what's going on, but first you need to understand what Tipster is. It's a third-party independent tipster verifying service. So you can sign up, you place a tip, they verify that that price was actually available at the time at which you submitted the tip with a relevant service. They'll display it on your record and provide links to that particular service for somebody who wants to follow your tips, whether it's free or paid for, can then go on and place bets on those tips at those prices. They don't provide betting services themselves. They're not a sportsbook. They're just a third-party verification service. However, prior to signing up, I didn't realise that they were going to provide so much analytical data in terms of what the tips were, when they were placed, etc., etc., as we'll go through in just a second. Because really, this is what allowed me to see what they were doing so quick. So if we take a look at the tipster dash here on the screen, you can see their profile page. They've decided to call themselves Footballer Tips. A little bit about them: subscription status. Obviously, I've paid £19 for 30 days worth of these tips. Today's tips, which are the current tips, both teams to score bet on the Danish Cup there. Something to remember in just a second, very important. The next tab, posts, few messages from the author of these tips, a little bit illiterate in places, which made me wonder who's behind these tips. I don't really know. Results. This is where it starts to get interesting. This is the good stuff, because this shows us the tips back into the past beyond when I subscribed to this service. So you can see that they've had plenty of winners, they've had some losers too, all very fair. But the thing that I want you to focus on here and bear in mind for in just a second is there's lots of both teams to score bets, maybe some unders overs bets, typically outside football leagues, lower matches that are of less interest. Over to the side there, this is the real gold stuff on the stats tab, because Tipster has set it up so that we can see all the data and information around these tips and see the recurring trends and patterns between the tips, allowing me to sort of quite easily unpick the strategy here and what they're doing. So over the previous year, you can see there's been some losing months, there's been some winning months. Predominantly the sports obviously being football, and both teams to score is the bet type. Some unders and overs, friendly matches, Division 3 matches, Norway, United States, Czech Republic, places like that. Outside markets that are of less interest to bookmakers. Also, you can see that the same bookmakers crop up quite a few times here, Betfair being one of the main ones. I've got a live example for you in just a second that we'll go through. The odds ranges, that doesn't matter so much. The strike rate, again, that doesn't matter so much. But the big one is the time before the event. So you can see that a lot of the time they're placing the bets or suggesting the tips between 6 and 12 hours before the start of the event. So that's typically going to be in the morning, earlier hours, possibly even the day before, depending where the match is and what time zone we're in. I draw your attention to the fact that there's only one tip inside the last hour before the start of the event. The published time below that shows us that the majority of tips are published between 8 AM and 12 PM in the morning there. So what does this point towards? This points toward the tipster specifically picking outside ancillary markets that are of less interest to the bookmaker, that have been priced wrong, where possibly the exchange price was shorter, which would make the tipster profitable over the longer term, and it would make you guys, if you were following the tips, profitable over the long term too, if it wasn't for one or two minor factors which are extremely important. So as an example, we've got the first tip here on the screen. I'm going to go through that now, but the main point to remember here is if you're value betting and you want to win over the longer term, you need to get a bigger price than the implied chance of something actually happening. That's how value betting works. That's how you come out over the longer term. It's the complete inverse of what bookmakers do when they bake in their margin to the odds before you place a bet. This is also why I'm not a fan of football betting tips, because the markets are typically quite competitive, the margins are thin, and opportunity doesn't last very long, which is not something that will be there long enough for a football betting tipster to put out there into the public on any kind of useful level anyway. So looking at this tip on the screen here, with Betfair, they're saying both teams to score at a price of 3.10 is a good value bet on this third division match. Once you click through to the link, it takes you to Betfair Sportsbook. You'll see the price has even drifted to 3.3, which is all good until you take a look at the exchange prices. Now, there's lower liquidity. There is a spread between the prices in this marketplace, but the exchange has this market price between a price of 2.52 and 3.0, meaning that this is an arb. There's more available on the Betfair Sportsbook than there is in exchange, and Betfair just isn't going to allow that. As you can see with my bet slip on the screen there, if I try to place a bet on the Betfair Sportsbook, they're only going to allow me to place a £1 bet, and that's because my account is earmarked as a profitable account. Now, there's nothing we can really do to get around this with sportsbooks. All of the sportsbooks behave in the same way. Sometimes they restrict you quicker, sometimes they restrict you slower, but in conclusion, these are value tips on football betting. It's just that it's a bit of an illusion, because once you go over to the platform, it's unlikely you're going to be able to get the tips bets on for any period of time before they do that to you. It's not necessarily tipster's fault. It's not necessarily the provider of the tips fault, although you could argue in this instance they know what they're doing. They're charging you for tips to then deliberately send you to a place where you can't get your bets on, which is where it's questionable. I'll leave that down to you guys to decide. But if you were to take these tips and measure them against the exchange values, you'd find over the longer period they would no longer be profitable, which is why I elected not to reply and promote this service. I just wanted to give an honest opinion out there so people understand what happens in some of these instances. Bookies are scumbags. There's absolutely nothing we can do about it, although there is something you can do about it, because you can get your bets on now in most instances with a platform called BetConnect shared in this video here in the end screen. I highly recommend that you go and watch it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.